My husband's addiction destroyed our family, now I'm facing the unknown. I still remember the morning we moved into our house, 7 years ago. The scent of fresh paint and new furniture clung to the air, mingling with the promise of a future we had built together. I remember standing in the kitchen, running my fingers over the cool granite countertops, imagining the meals we would cook, the laughter that would echo through these walls. We were unstoppable then, Adam and I, a team, partners in life. His auto service station was thriving, my career at the bank was secure, and we had just welcomed our greatest joy into the world, our son, Ethan. It was supposed to be forever. Now, that forever feels like a cruel joke. I stand in the same kitchen, but the warmth has been drained from it. The laughter is scarce, replaced by the quiet hum of appliances and the clink of my coffee cup as I rinse it in the sink. The house hasn't changed, but everything inside it has. Adam comes home late, reeking of alcohol and regret, his presence a shadow of the man I married. The first time he had a drink to unwind after work, I didn't think much of it. But then one drink turned into two, two into four, and now I don't even count anymore. I just wait. I wait for the sound of his keys fumbling in the lock, for the unsteady steps down the hall, for the inevitable wave of disappointment that washes over me when I realize he isn't going to change. The past 6 months have been a slow, steady erosion of everything we built. His business is suffering, customers are noticing, and so am I. There was a time when Adam would talk to me about everything, his plans, his struggles, his dreams. Now, all he does is drink them away. The conversations we do have are clipped, filled with frustration and exhaustion. I see it in his eyes, he's slipping, and I don't know if he even cares anymore. Ethan has started noticing, too. He asks about his father, wonders why he forgets to pick him up from practice, why he's always too tired to play. I find myself making excuses, trying to protect him from the truth, but how much longer can I keep up the illusion? Children aren't blind, and Ethan is smart. He knows something isn't right. Our vacation is coming up in 2 weeks, a trip we planned when things were still good. A beach getaway, just the 3 of us, meant to be a reprieve from the daily grind. But now, the thought of it fills me with dread. I don't want to spend a week pretending that everything is fine, forcing smiles, swallowing my frustration. And then the thought enters my mind, quietly at first, like a whisper I try to ignore. What if Ethan and I went without Adam? It feels like a betrayal to even consider it, but the more I think about it, the more sense it makes. Maybe some time apart will help. Maybe Adam needs to see what he's losing. Maybe I need to step away to remember who I am outside of this sinking marriage. That night, as I lay in bed, listening to the distant sound of the television and the clink of another beer bottle hitting the table, I make my decision. Ethan and I will go. And when we return, I'll have to face whatever comes next, whether Adam is ready or not. Packing for the trip felt surreal, like I was preparing for a life separate from Adam. I folded Ethan's favorite t-shirts, tucked away bottles of sunscreen, and double-checked our itinerary. I told myself this was just a break, a chance to breathe, but deep down, I knew it was more than that. This was a test. Would I miss him? Would he realize what he was losing? Or was this just the first step in letting go? We drove to Myrtle Beach, just Ethan and me, windows down, music playing. He was excited, chatting about the ocean, the sand castles he planned to build, and the seashells he wanted to collect. I envied his innocence. To him, this was a vacation. To me, it felt like an escape. The beach house was perfect, with white shutters, a porch swing, and the faint scent of salt in the air. We spent our days by the water, toes in the sand, letting the sun warm our skin. I watched Ethan run up and down the shore, collecting tiny treasures in his bucket, his laughter light and unburdened. I let myself relax, at least a little. We ate seafood at small, family-owned restaurants, played board games at night, and fell asleep to the distant sound of waves. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. But as much as I tried to enjoy the moment, Adam was always there in the back of my mind. I checked my phone too often, waiting for a message, a call, some sign that he missed us, that he was trying. But there was nothing. A week later, we returned home to a house that felt different. I unlocked the front door, stepped inside, and immediately noticed something was off. The air felt hollow, as if the walls had been stripped of something essential. I walked through the living room, glancing at the empty spaces where our things used to be. The TV was gone. The coffee table, the framed photos from our wedding, the bookshelf that had held Ethan's bedtime stories. It was all missing. A cold knot formed in my stomach as I moved through the house, my steps growing faster. In the kitchen, the microwave was gone, along with the expensive blender Adam had insisted we buy last Christmas. The liquor cabinet, however, was still fully stocked. Ethan trailed behind me, his little voice breaking the silence. "Mommy, where's my toy box?" I turned, my heart sinking. His toy box was gone too. His favorite stuffed animals, his puzzles, his race cars. I swallowed hard, forcing a smile. "Maybe Daddy moved them," I said, though I had a terrible feeling about what had really happened. Adam was passed out on the couch, an empty bottle of whiskey on the coffee table. I shook him hard. "Adam," I said, my voice sharp. "Adam, wake up." He stirred, groaning, his eyes barely opening. He reeked of alcohol and sweat. What? Where are our things?" I demanded. "Where's Ethan's toy box? Where's the TV?" He rubbed his face, his expression vacant, then mumbled something under his breath. "What did you do?" I pushed, my voice rising. Finally, he exhaled, slurring the words, "Pawned them." "Pawned them." My stomach twisted. "You sold our things?" "I needed money," he muttered, as if it were obvious. Just for a little while. I was gonna get him back." I closed my eyes, trying to stay calm, trying not to let the rage and sadness consume me. He had pawned our belongings, Ethan's toys, our furniture, for alcohol. That's what this was. This wasn't about needing money for bills, for the shop. This was about feeding the addiction that was swallowing him whole. Ethan was watching us, his small face pinched with confusion. I had to stay in control, for his sake. I couldn't let him see me crumble. I turned to Adam. "This is it," I said quietly. "This is the last time." He didn't respond, just sank deeper into the couch, eyes glazed, lost. And in that moment, I realized he already knew. He knew he had pushed too far. He knew there was no fixing this. I took Ethan's hand and led him upstairs, away from the wreckage of the life we once had. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing for sure: I couldn't keep waiting for Adam to save himself. It was time to save myself, and my son. The days after discovering what Adam had done felt like a slow-motion collapse, a house of cards folding in on itself, leaving nothing but a scattered mess of emotions and empty spaces where our belongings used to be. It wasn't just the things that were gone, it was the trust, the belief that things could get better on their own. I had clung to that belief for far too long, and now I was left holding nothing but the sharp edges of reality. At first, I tried to put it out of my mind, to focus on Ethan, to carry on as if life hadn't just shifted under my feet. I told myself Adam was sick, that addiction wasn't something he chose, that it had taken root inside him like a parasite, feeding off of everything good until nothing was left. But I was tired of justifying, tired of forgiving. Because at some point, his addiction had stopped being just his problem, it had become mine, Ethan's, our entire family's. And the longer I let it continue, the more it consumed. The week after our return from vacation was a blur of exhaustion. Every night, I lay awake in bed, listening for the sound of Adam's keys in the lock, dreading what state he'd be in when he walked through the door. Would he be angry? Would he be apologetic? Would he even remember what he had done? And then there were the little things, the everyday moments that cut the deepest. Like the night I found Ethan sitting in the hallway, clutching his stuffed dinosaur, the one thing that hadn't been pawned, waiting for his dad to come home so he could show him the seashell collection he had brought back from the trip. I had to look him in the eyes and tell him that Daddy was working late, that he'd see them tomorrow. But I knew the truth. I knew Adam was slumped over a bar somewhere, wasting away whatever money he had left on another round. Then came the moment that changed everything. It was a Tuesday evening. I had just finished helping Ethan with his homework when I heard the sound of something shattering downstairs. My pulse spiked, a cold rush of fear running down my spine. I hurried to the living room and found Adam standing over the broken remains of a picture frame, swaying slightly, his eyes unfocused. It was our wedding photo. The glass had cracked, the edges jagged, distorting our once happy faces. I barely recognized him anymore. His skin was pale, his hair unkempt, his clothes wrinkled as if he had been sleeping in them for days. And maybe he had. He looked up at me, something like regret flickering in his bloodshot eyes, but it wasn't enough. Regret meant nothing when it came after destruction. I didn't say anything. I just picked up the broken pieces, one by one, careful not to cut myself. Maybe that was the perfect metaphor for our marriage. I had been picking up the pieces for so long, trying to hold everything together, trying to fix something that was already beyond repair. And suddenly, I knew. I couldn't do it anymore. The next morning, I made the calls. I found a rehab center, a place that specialized in long-term treatment for people like Adam. I reached out to his parents, told them everything, asked for their support. And then I waited for him to wake up, for the right moment to tell him that this was it. That he either got help, or he lost us completely. When he finally woke, there was no fight left in him. No arguments, no empty promises. He just sat there, head in his hands, and nodded. Maybe, deep down, he had known all along that this was inevitable. That he had been running from something he could no longer outrun. The house has been quiet since he left. It's been weeks now, and I don't know what happens next. I keep expecting to hear his footsteps in the hall, to find him asleep on the couch, but it's just me and Ethan now, living in the space his absence has created. Part of me hopes this is the beginning of something new. That Adam will come back as the man I fell in love with, the man who used to laugh with Ethan over Saturday morning pancakes, who used to hold me close on cold nights. But another part of me, maybe the more honest part, knows that people don't always change just because we want them to. That sometimes, love isn't enough to pull someone from the edge. And so, I wait. I wait for news, for progress, for a sign that this was worth it. And I wonder, what would you do if you were me? Would you hold on to hope? Or is hope just another way of delaying the inevitable?